Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, teachers, students, and my dear fellow debating enthusiasts. I, Karan, on the behalf of Hyderabad debating community, welcome you all to our eighth debate. The motion for today's debate is Education for Women, It's Still a Dream. All the contestants have been briefed about the format and the rules of the debate. For the benefit of the audience, I would be reiterating them. Well, the judges have casted their vote, and this voting has been done based upon their perception of the motion. And after the judging thing, we'll be going away with the flip of a coin. And this flip of a coin will be deciding which team is going for the motion or against the motion. And at the same time, it is also be deciding which team is going first or second in the debating format. As we have done the flip of a coin, after doing the flip of a coin, we'll be deciding the proposition team and the opposition team. And these are the three rounds of the debate. The first round would be introduction round. The second one would be interjection. The third one would be conclusion round. Well, this would be the debating format. The introduction round, where two members of each team are going to speak, and the time limit for this round would be 2.5 minutes. Well, in this round, the debaters will be laying down the introduction cases on the motion. After the introduction round, we'll be having a 5-minute strategic break where all the debaters would be sent to their respective breakout rooms, and this timeout would be helping them to lay down their objectives for the introduction round and the counter arguments. Well, after the strategic break, all the debaters will be again sent back to the debate room, and this should be the speaking order for the debates. Where in this round, all the debaters from both the teams would be getting a chance to speak. After the introduction round, there would be a 3-minute strategic break where they will be preparing for their conclusion statements. And in the conclusion round, only one speaker from each team is able to speak. But after the debate, we'll be having a Q&A session where the audience will be getting a chance to interact with the debaters. They can ask questions, and the questions limit is 2 questions per each team. Well, after the Q&A session, we'll be having a fact checker report. Well, the fact checker will be giving away his report based on the arguments and the facts presented by both the teams. If there are any distorted facts, then the fact checker will be able to help us with that report. After the fact checker report, at the end, we'll be having a post-debate polling where the judges will again get a chance to cast their vote based on the entire debate. And the winner of the debate would be calculated by evaluating the swing of the votes. Well, this would be the timing format, and this is how we'll be clocking the time. And for the introduction round, at the end of 1 minute, we'll be showing a green card. And at the end of 1 minute 30 seconds, we'll be showing a yellow card, and the debaters would be on force muted at the end of 2.5 minutes. The same goes for the introduction round, where there will be a green card at the end of 1 minute, and there would be a yellow card at the end of 2 minutes, and there would be force muted at the end of 3 minutes. And for the conclusion round, there will be a green card at the end of 1 minute, and there will be a yellow card at the end of 2 minutes, and the debater would be force muted at the end of 3.5 minutes. Well, this is the format of the debate. So without further ado, I would request both the team captains to come forward and do a flip of a coin.
Yeah, I'll go for heads.
It's heads.
Yeah, we'll go in proposition for the topic.
Okay. And Rishi, what do you choose, to go first or second?
We'll go second.
The old African proverb, if you educate a man, you educate an individual, but if you educate a woman, you educate a family, was a pioneer in its time for realizing the importance of women's education when men predominated education opportunities. Let's take Afghanistan, for example. Girls' education has often been highlighted as success stories by donors and Afghan government, and million more girls are in school today than they were in under Taliban rule. It is based on 249 interviews in Kabul, Khandar, Naraghar provinces, mostly with the girls aged 11 to 18 who were not able to complete their education. But the stated aim of getting all girls into school is far from realized, and the proportion of students who are girls is now falling in parts of the country. According to the government, 3.5 million children are out of school, and 85% of them are girls. Only 37% of adolescent girls are literate compared to the 66% of adolescent boys. Afghanistan's government provides fewer schools for girls than boys at both the primary and secondary level. Many children live far from a school to attend, which particularly affects girls. While 41% of schools have no buildings, many lack boundary walls, water, and toilets, disproportionately affecting girls. Girls are often kept home due to discriminatory attitudes that do not value the permit or education. A third of girls marry before 18, and once engaged or married, many girls are compelled to drop out of school. It's no different in India either. In urban areas, most people do not discriminate between girls and boys when providing education opportunities to their children. However, in rural areas, it is still considered a taboo to educate girls. People believe education will bring sadness to their martial life. Historians say women in ancient India would enjoy a status on par with that of men. With time, their condition declined steadily. Educating girls became a taboo and their mobility was restricted. They were not allowed to interact with strangers. After 74 years of independence, the veil of darkness is yet to lift completely. The fact remains that women are equal to men and can do extremely well if given an opportunity. Fulman Devi, a domestic help, said, It's important to educate girls to help them stand on their own two feet. Education is the foundation of society. Without education, society cannot function.
Now, girls' education. These issues have really been a long and tedious topic in debates for more than a decade, but there is still a lot of angle to be looked upon. Talking about India, the current female literacy rate is 70.3%, which is impressive as compared to 53.7% in 2010. And this grow in some way quite obvious. And all thanks to those technological achievements and urbanizations which made these easily accessible for girls especially. Over the years, steps taking providing scholarship for the girls to pursue engineering and increasing seats in IITs like colleges have been a landmark steps in the field of engineering for girls. Not only in engineering, let's talk about medical sector, civil, and other factors too, like STEM. In every field, things are getting better for the girls and is still in progress. Now, today women brings medal that in Olympics that is mesmerizing. Countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia saw a drastic change and a huge upside graph they have shown in quite previous year. Now, talking about India, progress has been made in northwestern part of India, especially in Rajasthan. Now, new literacy efforts has been made to boost the number of girls attending schools and the number of girls for summer coding camp aims to introduce computers to girls. Now, talking about the initiative by the governments in Jharkhand, Jharkhand government has taken a big initiative towards education upliftment. The Jharkhand government has decided on distributing free textbook uniforms and notebooks to all the students from grade 9 to 12. Talking about Gurgaon, too, located in Haryana, government aims to provide free education to girls from 9 to 12. Now, recently, UNICEF has a coordination with the government, which deals with the to provide a free education to the girls. And looking at this, Bihar government has did a great job. Now, talking about the enrollment ratio, GER for women in 2019-20 is 27.3% as compared to 26.9% for men. This means that more girls are eligible and attending colleges and university in India. Nearly 49% of the total enrollment in 2019 and 20 consists of female students. Now, GR for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe category stood at 23.5%, which is impressive as compared to 22.9% for men. Now, talking about the girls' education,
Hello, everyone. So, starting with a famous quote by Malala Yousafzai, saying that education is neither east nor west. Education is the right of every human being. But still, education is a dream for many women, and it still remains a dream. A woman is still treated as a homemaker, and her abilities are being restricted to the four walls of the kitchen. There is a specialty treatment for a male child in our society, and because of the greed of their parents, they are forcing a lot of girls to forego their dream of education. In fact, there has been a scheme of purchasing men to marry women, which in turn is making situation worse for girls. And the priority of the girl's parents has to change from for spending it to education of the child to buying a man to marry her. In many places across India, there has been a scenario where primary education is free. However, due to lack of proper toilets and sanitation, the enrollment of women has been reduced. In countries like Afghanistan, the rules has been into the hands of Taliban recently, and there has been a forceful implementation of Sharia law, which has made many women's dreams to be hidden behind their niqabs and burqas. Even after the implementation of National Education Policy 2020, with a target to achieve a 100% gross enrollment ratio by 2030, by bringing social gaps, by bridging social gaps in school education, the statistics still do not seem to improve because the mission can only be achieved through educating their parents to send their children to school. In practical, which is not effectively done. And there is a disparity in terms of spending money for education between men and women, which is increasing the number of girls who are losing access to education. In addition to all these factors, we have a COVID-19 pandemic in place that is leading to a disruption of girl-child life. And as they are at home, the priority of the parents has moved from getting the girl child educated to making her work and take family care. We would like to clearly say that educating one generation of a girl child in a family will in turn lead to education of every girl child in that family in the upcoming generations. And the authorities and the governments will need to aim at the same by giving a PR or a proper education to every girl child in that family. And the government should also take a step
It is well said that a job half a job well begin is half done. Dream doesn't mean that does dream of education doesn't mean that every person in society should have education. It means that access to education is easier and it is available. Now, why do I say this? Well, you remember ancient India, you remember Asian societies, though education was considered a taboo. Education for women was not at all easily accessible. But the society has completely changed. What we can see by recent studies is that female doctorate in America is much more as compared to males. A recent study in 2015 says that the number of females in a college is 135 females to 100 males. When we come down and see the laws that we have, Article 14 of Constitution of India provides equal rights and equal opportunities to everyone. Article 15 provides that special provisions can be made in favor of women in terms of education. When we are talking about child rights, let's talk globally. United Convention on Child Rights. This accepted by more than 100 plus countries, and it specifically provides that the state will take actions for the education for children. Coming back to India, when we just look at the statistics itself, it can easily say that there has been 18% increase in higher education, with an enrollment ratio has increased to 27.3% in females itself, which is in males 26.9%. Well, definitely females are higher. When we go further and understand all the laws, all the societies that we have right now, well, it's It is not a dream. We already have started. We already have achieved it. It's not like we are saying that we will stop right now, will not further work in terms of education. But
So, adding further to the debate, according to UNICEF, 1 out of every 3 adolescent girls from age 10 to 16 from poorest households have never been to school. Additionally, UNICEF says that 10 countries across Africa account for highest disparities in gender-based spending of education, which says male students are given 4 times more spending than the female students, because of which many girls had to forego education. Additionally, the pandemic has raised some more flags in terms of education for women. Most of the girls staying at home, listening to online classes, had to work at home and had to be restricted for family care. There are girls, even if RTE Act of 2019, the Right to Education Act of 2019 mandates compulsory education for children from ages 6 to 14 under Article 21A of the Constitution. However, we do not have any equality in place. India, being a developing nation, should have major investments in the field of education and health. However, according to a report by Right to Education Forum and Center for Budget and Policy Studies, they gave to a conclusion that poor compliance is existing in India in terms of spending. The right to education, 12%, 12.7% across India is very low compared to many other countries for women because of the downward trend in financing, which has been 4.14% in 2015 and has come down to 3.4% in 2020. The same report says that India is levying an emergency cess of 0.5% to fund education, and India is in one of the majority countries which has the highest amount of budget being allocated, but still is having an additional cess of 0.5%. That is still yet contributing 70% of fees for many of the students, which is an alarming point. And coming to the religions never said that girl is a lower gender and a male is a higher gender. It's we who created barriers. Nobody in Hinduism said that only a guy can carry their family traditions or continue their family. Nobody in Islam said that women cannot be a part of prayers or women cannot be their leaders. A birth of a girl is still considered to be a curse. The modern day feminism is still a mockery.
decreasing finances in terms of women education, well, let me tell you, there has been substantial increase in number of women who have enrolled and even who have passed out. So now, when we have seen that there has been substantial increase, it is very practical for the government to cut a bit of cost to invest in some other field of education for women, like providing job opportunities to them. Because after education, what are they going to do? Providing job opportunities for them. When it comes to no one said that it is a religion or it is not a religion. Well, I completely agree. No religion said that there is a difference between male and female. We can work, and that's what we are trying to say. There is no difference. We have came a long way around, which we were considering, and we are still here that it is no longer a dream and education is accessible to everyone. During COVID-19 pandemic, well, I am a girl and I am packed in 4 walls. Like any other girl, you are trying to speak. But it did not stop me from working or it did not stop me from learning. Now you're talking about how these facilities are even available to rural people. Well, yes, they are, because government, even considering a COVID-19 pandemic, do allotted same funds for the education for women. Government schools were not shut down completely. They are not shut down yet. They are running. There has been substantial increase. There has been various schemes that were run by the government, like Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, the midday meal scheme, just to attract these people to come to school and tell them and teach them the importance of education. When we talk about there has been a substantial decrease, we also need to consider the things around us. How many of you have seen a government school or have visited a government school? Well, let me tell you, it is not below the standards that we are expecting, because I have. When we talk about, we also need to consider some women idols.
In India, there is a very common proverb which says, raising a girl is like watering someone else's lawn. And why would I really put in efforts if the lawn is not mine? If you look at the census from 2011 to 2022, the ratio, the gender disparity is still at 21.3%. The adult literacy rate haven't seen any increase for the girls. The reasons can be different. As Ria pointed out, the government schools are good. I would want to send my daughter to the government school. But for what reason am I sending my daughter to the government school? Am I sending her for the midday meal, or am I sending her because she might have better opportunities in the future? We are still a developing nation. That means the deep-rooted desire to basically send our kids to school is still remains unsolved. There is communalism, there is terrorism, and hence India is still a developing nation. We fail to perceive literacy as a part of our development process. We neglect the issue of literacy, and that can hurt the development of India very badly. Opportunities are given to women in the garb of taking opportunities or using them. It's not because I want the woman to read and pave a path for herself, but maybe to make her a sex slave, or maybe to make her a sophisticated sex slave. How many people here at this point in time would actually go for a prostitution than go to school to study? Because at the end of the day, school is not allowing me to earn money, but prostitution is. Women are thinking about how to feed their children. They are not thinking about why I should send them to school. All of our domestic helpers are uneducated helpers who did not have an opportunity. And I ask each one of you a question: how many of you are willing to sponsor their children's education, specifically girls' education? Over to Karan.
First of all, Vanshita talked about Afghanistan. Now let me start that Afghanistan, world is not Afghanistan, and Afghanistan is not world. Let's talk about Kazakhstan, a neighboring country of Afghanistan. Primary school enrollment is in almost universal. The net enrollment rate for girls in primary school is 99.9%, and progression of girls from primary to secondary school hovers around 100%. In fact, in Kazakhstan, percentage of women retained than male is greater. Now, next we can see talked about Siddhartha talked about the barrier about the girls. Now, the barriers girls need to cross herself, like Kalpana Chawla did, like Indira Gandhi did. Even we can see the first vice president of America is right now a woman, that is Kamala Harris. She too crossed the line with her own confidence and everything. She achieved what she did. Now, talking about that, right now we have judges too. There are many judges who are women. They have the courage to judge others with their own knowledge and everything. Now, talking about this independence, since after independence, India has achieved a lot, and it's keep on achieving. Now we know good thing takes times. Everyone, this is not just in a single day we can achieve everything. Okay. Now, recent report of Ramesh Pokhriyal, I would like to quote that between 2015 and 16 and 19 and 20, there has been 11.4% growth in students enrollment. The rise in female enrollment is higher education during the period is 18.2%. That is really huge and remarkable. Thank you. Over to you.
Afghanistan is not the world, but the world is looking at Afghanistan. It's setting a benchmark with so many limitations to curb the education of women. If you look at old age in every country, we see wars being waged for women, and now we see it's difficult for women to seek education. Although some, although, although some, although some Although some women have come a long way from the time they were kept hidden inside their homes, they still have a long way to go. As we celebrate independence, it's perhaps time country took its pledge to advocate true gender equality and help the country achieve its potential. Education is not a right in itself, but also the surest way to empower individuals. Education of rural girls is equally important. The rural girls are not getting ample opportunities for education. Education of these girls would have a positive impact on both economy and society. From Savitribai Phule to the present generation, did we really justify the education of our women? Our fight for education is still the same. Why do we discriminate against women? Why are the poor still concerned about sending the girl child to school to make them to school and make them educate? Thank you.
Let's just start from where you left, Mr. Proponentin. You left us with the ancient India. Let me start with the ancient India right there. Ancient India called goddess of education, Saraswati. Isn't that just justified everything which I'm trying to say from the day one and the point one my team is trying to make you understand that it's a woman who talk about education, who bring the education to the entire nation. My team very well said, Afghanistan is not world and world is not Afghanistan. And we agree that yes, there is a situation where the world's women will be in home. There are healthy chances they won't come out. But hasn't that not the same if we look back in the mirror? The women were representing everywhere in Afghanistan. So what changed? What changed is the terrorist invaded Afghanistan. And if you are celebrating fear, my dear friend, world is looking at you as well, and we are trying to segregate those people who are trying to celebrate fear. You talked about Malala Yousafzai. What about the consequences? Yes, she was shot right blank on the head, and the bullet has reached till her neck. Talk about the changes. That was an exception, but the change, the revolution you got. That province which was under Taliban, Pakistan Taliban, has been liberated and the women started going back to schools. There has been co-education started there. Why don't you talk about changes? Because you know that Rome was not built in a day and it won't be the same. It will take change. It will take change, and I will talk about the changes. You talk about sanitation. How about to give you the real figures? After the change of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the percentage of schools and the girls' toilet I'm talking about, listen it carefully, I'm talking about the girls' toilet, 100% in union territories, 97.6% in large state, small state, 96.7%. Cross-check it from the Times of India as well as from India Today. Now, is it just schooling which makes you educated? Or is it just the education of degreeification? Or is it just degree you get that makes you educated? I believe no. And that's what the figure stands when you talk about the Olympics representation of women this year. There was there was an increase of 20%. Did you talk about education and forgot STEAM? STEAM, yes. Perhaps you might have not heard it because you did try to learn it. Scientific, technology, education, and as well as research. So where do women stand on STEAM? To give you an example, initially London doesn't consider
21.6% of gap. The male literacy rate is at 64.8 and the female literacy rate is at 53.7. Kerala still tops the national literacy rate by 96.2%. Are we only looking at Kerala when we talk about India, or are we only looking at Afghanistan when we talk about the world? We are looking at these two cities because they are setting the benchmark for women to either continue their education or to discontinue their education. I would want to ask each one of you, is physical education not a part of education? We would want to believe holistic development of individual, irrespective of their gender, is the basic necessity of being a human being. Then why are we treating sports as a separate domain in the education itself? I would also want to tell each one of you sitting here, as soon as a girl hits her puberty, she drops out of her school for reasons that she does not feel secure, for reasons that there is no hygienic ground provided by the governments, and how much can NGOs actually help the rural India? We talk about Kazakhstan, but have we ever wondered about the population of Kazakhstan versus the population in the African countries? How many African girls pursue their education after they hit puberty, or once they think they are 14 or 15 years of age and they become extremely conscious about their bodies? According to the United Nations, 129 million girls have dropped off their school for multiple reasons. Each one of us sit and talk here. Each one of us sit and talk here about girl education. But how comfortable are we in sending our girls to school for classes, for extracurricular activities post 7 o'clock? It is not the government which is supposed to change, because government does not make people, people make the government. And if the basic mentality of people is to hide their girls in the most cornermost of their homes, then what can the government do? How many of them have sent their children in the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Andolan? How much progress have we seen from all the initiatives the government has put on us as Indian citizens? The world with 193 countries still ask this question. There are a handful of women who are creating history. The others are dying in silence. Education is not about going and learning ABCD. Education is about empowering a girl child with freedom to do what she wants to pursue in her life. Did you ever give the opportunity to a girl child and say, well, let's not get you married. Would you want to continue your education? None of us have asked that question, even to our sisters at home. And that is the challenge with the middle class mentality. The high class still has a peer pressure. The middle class, not so much. The poorest of the poor, they really do not.
Thank you so much, proponent team, for concluding on my behalf. This is what we were saying from the word go, that change will come and change is there. This is what we are trying to say from the very first word we uttered, that yes, it is a developing country and it will change. Which are developed country, I talk about US 200 years of independence, and that's why their infrastructure is that good. You just demonize midday meal? How dare you? I second dare you to say that it is to feed the girls. No, it's not. It's for the nutrition content. You need to go back and see where India stand on the nutrition index and what are the foods are given in the midday meal. It's not just to feed the girls. You talked about prostitution. Damn you, how dare you? How dare you, being a woman, talk about a prostitution, an easy option? Nobody willing to go for the prostitution. I second this line again, as I said in the same breath. Nobody. You talked and very easily objectified women saying a lawn, watering your own lawn. Did you? You just questioned that people will not allow their daughters to go out and educate. Will you do the same? And if you do not, then you answer my question right there, right now. that you will, because you have a daughter. I did allow my sister to educate. Many of us in this room, if they vote, it will be a 99.99%. Now I tell you an example of Gulabi gang. You must not have heard because you're not interested in fact, but interested in giving your just opinions right on your fallacy and the dreams. Gulabi gang is a woman who are totally uneducated. They stood against in the family members, against the husband of their own home. It's in UP, just go and Google it. They stood against the home violence, everyday happening violence in the right in the home. I give you an example of a woman who was 109-year-old. She wrote her exam when she was of 106 and she died a few years back. This is the education system we have reached. You talked about Kerala and Afghanistan. My dear, how about talk about that Kerala, that how long Kerala had been changing and reforming their education system. I could go on and on talk about, but I will give you a very, very, very important example of IAS from Kashmir, because Kashmir is one time today's Afghanistan. Kashmir IAS Ruveda Salam, you need to Google her, how she came across all the odds to make an example, set an example as an inspiration, and she will be an inspiration to my daughter, my sister, and my mother. I respect that woman. Now you talked about how do you say this will happen? I will give you an example. Before today, the Indian schools didn't have, at least government school didn't have education for vocational trainings. That has came up. You know why? Just to enable them not to go and maid at your home. We want to enable them to work and be independent. Go and check the index of single mother in USA, UK, developed nations. You talked about the globe, but you didn't give the fact from the globe. Now, last to give you a quote from one of the very much poet. The ancient poet, since we started from ancient India, let me end right there on the ancient India. The poet named Ghalib, he wrote, and I quote unquote, he says, Kismat to.
Thank you both the teams for your conclusion statements. Well, the debate is not over yet. We have a Q&A session, which is coming up, and I request the audience to come up with their questions. And to reiterate the rules, each team will be able to answer 2 questions. And I would request the debaters to make sure that you're answering your question within less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, hi. So my question is to the proposition team. So when you say that education is still a dream for women, I want to understand how do you define this dream? When would you be calling it and not a dream anymore? Is it after 100% enrollment of all the girls in the world? If that's the case, then isn't education a dream for everyone? And yeah, I think you would have also looked at the dropout rates of boys after elementary school. It's also high. So I just want to understand how would you define when would this not be any dream anymore? Yeah.
So it's coming from the
Can I answer that?
to answer this.
Can I answer that, Karan?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So hi Vishal, good question. So let me put you forth. Not we are defining any kind of a benchmark in this context. The government of India in its national education policy has defined that whenever there is a 100% gross enrollment ratio in schools and colleges for all genders, that is when they have reached their mark. So 100% gross enrollment ratio, which is the mark set by government of India, is everyone's mark across the country. That is when we agree to the point that even women, men, and everyone are educated in the country, and India is a developed nation.
Okay, thanks for that.
I hope that answered your question, Vishal. Let's get with another question. Yes, we have a raise of hands from Vijayan and today's timer. Okay, let's start with Vijayan first. Vijayan, whom do you ask this question for?
I want to ask for the question to the for team proposition team, because while they spoke a lot about the stats, some of the stats actually, not the stats, some of the statements stumped me. I want to know if it's an opinion or it's an actual stat and any proof for that. One of the things they said is disparity to spending money was in women education versus men education. I don't know how is spending money on women versus men education. That too, from a government standpoint, is what Siddharth was mentioning in his opening comment. I don't know if that is an opinion or was it a stat. Another one was again for it, like again a stat again. 23% was the ratio between 2011 to 2021 for a ratio between men and women. That's what I heard. But so in that, they said the literacy rate remains the same. Adult literacy rate remains the same. These were, to me, were opinions. I just want a confirmation. Is it an opinion or a fact? And if it's a fact, is there a proof?
Yes. These are not facts anyway. These are not opinions. They are 100% facts. So regarding the spending of women education, we have seen a report by Right to Education Forum and Center for Budget Policy Studies with the support of UNICEF and World Bank. They have conducted a survey where they found that India has a poor compliance of 12.7% in catering this education sector for girls. And they have given a clear-cut conclusion that financing school education for girls has come down from 4.14 to 3.4% within a span of last 4 years. So that is one fact that you can find out in that report. And second thing about the 23%, it is a grave fact because for every 1,000 males, we have around 948 females in the country. In India, we have 64.8% national literacy rate for males and 53.7% female literacy. So if we take on a gross value, it is approximately coming up to 23% difference between in terms of numbers rather than taking the overall percentages, because the population of men is very high. And these are the data given by national research itself by the ministry. Every year they release this data, the percentage of literacy between both the genders, and we have referred to the same. And even when we took the context of Kerala, that was a value released by the government saying that Kerala is at 96%.
Lasya, yes, do you have any question for the opposition team?
Hey, hi, Karan. Thank you. It was a nice debate. So my question is to the opposition team. I work with an NGO that adopts schools, and so far in last 3 years, we have adopted 7 schools. But this being the statistics, we always want women to come and study. But this is not a real-time scenario in the rural Telangana. Parents, families are still hesitant. So I heard one of the debaters talk about NGO's role in motivating students. We are doing our part and it is not working out, and it is an investment of 3 years of time. So what's your take on this?
So you're talking about NGO's role in giving education to women? Well, yes, because government cannot reach the far end of the society till they do not help, till we have some supporting teams. NGOs are the best supporting teams when everyone could have. We might face a situation that there are still some people who are hesitant to. But why not to tell them that there were some other people who were hesitant to, but they still took a step. I know it is going to be a very difficult job to motivate people, but that's why we have so many schemes for them. And education is not a dream because it is accessible to them. They can take a step forward and learn because we are there to help. Being afraid should not help us, should not stop us from taking a step forward. Being afraid should motivate us to take a step forward.
I see Mamta has raised her hand. Mamta, can you please shoot your question to the opposite team?
Sure, fantastic debate from both the ends. My question is for the opposition team. You spoke about how the efforts are being invested and are seen in the progressiveness. However, what about the skewed power relations and other factors that are negatively affecting the empowerment of women and girls, and about their attainment of necessary life skills?
Yeah, Karan, may I go on this question?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Mamta, for this question. And thank you very much, Karan, every time to force feed the people to ask the opposition when we already know the motion is in favor of us. But yeah, I will answer this question with very vibrant example. How many of you remember the fight which Hillary Clinton fought for? World biggest, oldest democracy, which is yet to get a female president. Today, they stand where the world second most powerful position is owned by a woman. There are skewed powers. There are people like Taliban. But what is the positive part we have to see? It's always hope. Rome was not built in a day, and never it will be like the same. It will be a generation. It takes generation. It takes bricks by bricks to build this institution. So yes, Kalpana Chawla is a living example of such dreams. If you dream big, you can go for it. You talk about, you just asked in your question that what are the other factors can be taken care. Isn't it the Chaukhut system, which was there in the India, which after independence, Gandhiji himself questioned and asked women to come out. Chaukhut means the four wall of the home. They asked women to cross that, go for the education, go for the job. Are you not, or are we not seeing the panel? I just congratulate this panel for having 50% of women presence in this debate. Would have been this possible without education? Today, education is no dream, and it's not a far cry anymore. It's in your hand. If you have a mobile, if you have internet, if you have education system, if you can go to a government school, education is there. From there, it's your ambition which will build you. It will be your strong willpower. And that lands into the hand of NGO as the people to show that support, to motivate them. And there are many examples of such. For example, Hima Das coming from a tribe. I hope you got your answer. Thank you, Karan.
Thank you, Hishi. Well, that's it from the Q&A session. Now it's time for polling from our judges. I've already sent you the link in our common group, and I request all the judges to please cast your vote. Yes, well, we got the results. Let me share my screen. So this was the voting before the debate from our judges. There were 57.1% which has voted, who has voted for the motion. And this is the voting after the debate. Well, the winners for today's debate is the team proposition. Congratulations, team proposition, and congratulations to both the teams for your participation.
Congratulations to everyone. I believe we had a great debate and looking forward to participate in more as well.
Well, thank you all. I now officially close the debate. This debate will be a kind of special debate for us as we are embarking our 3-month journey. Well, exactly 3 months before, on 6th June, we have started our first debate. Right from then, the audience have been asking us various questions. What is HDC? Why HDC? Is this affiliated to any kind of non-profit organization? Well, to clear that air, I must say, something which started as a source of beer and skittles a long time ago has now took shape and getting establishing as a professional society to help individuals become better at listening, critically analyzing the arguments, and articulating the ideas with greater confidence. We at HDC, a bunch of energized individuals, Charan, Lasya, Sai Rajesh, Saina, Sai Sudan, and Pawan, who exclusively conduct debates every fortnight purely out of their passion for debating and to bring out the interesting perspectives from the people.
Yeah, hi everyone. So thank you, Karan, for inviting me to today's debate. So just a brief about myself. I work as the School Education Department of Telangana as a consultant. So today's motion is very close to my heart and something that I work on a regular basis. And I think both the teams, I'm in fact looking forward to the various perspectives that I can get from the arguments, and I think both the teams have done well in the first round. And overall, I really believe that HTC is doing a really great job with this initiative because, as Karan mentioned, the ability to communicate clearly and structure our thoughts and the ability to influence your audience. In this case, it's us, but it could be anyone within your organization, any idea that you have. And these skills are definitely something that are going to make someone a great leader. And I think you are building a community of those kind of leaders. I think HDs is really doing a great job. And I wish I could join this more consistently, but I am unable to. But definitely because just with spending 1 hour, I am able to grab a lot of arguments, and there's a lot of research that these guys are doing. And with 1 hour, I'm able to get all that stuff, and in fact, better my perceptions. I think it's a really great platform. Thanks for inviting me.